What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the Dylan Talks Tone Just Gonna Say It podcast. It is Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. That's when we normally do this. We sit around and hang out and talk about guitar stuff for about an hour. So thanks for chilling with me this afternoon. We are going to talk about the state of the guitar industry. I was talking to some folks over the last few weeks and making some plans for 2025 and doing some various things and also reading some articles and such. And I ran across some really interesting statistics that surprised me. But I get a feeling, obviously I do this every day, so I got a feeling, and some of those feelings that I had about how things are going seem to be reinforced by some of the things I was reading and stuff. So that's pretty neat. First of all, let's mention that this is a live stream on Dylan Talks Tone. So that means there's no ads. So if you want to support the channel, you can use a super chat to do so. You can ask a question. You can also use the links in the description. Use those links of those companies that support the channel. That'll help the channel. And of course, you can go to DylanTalksTone.com and buy pickups and all kinds of other stuff Dylan Talks Tone related over there that I think you will dig. So, yeah, very cool stuff. Let's see. We've got a few people hanging out here. Which guitar is pictured? The one on the right. I don't remember what was in the thumbnail. Hang on. I can tell you because I have all of my thumbnails right here. The one on the right, that's my Texas Toast that is a Texas Toast guitar that I have. Yeah, Icon. Let's see. All right, so cool. Yeah, let's chat about this a little bit. It's kind of interesting stuff. A lot of people would say, they would turn on normal terrestrial radio, or they would look at their own, how do you want to say, their own algorithm through their Spotify or their Apple iTunes or their however they listen to music, or YouTube music, or wherever. And they might, there are people that bang on about how the fact that guitar is dying and it's not in modern music, and, all those other kinds of music are taking over. And honestly, that's just not the case. The numbers, they say the opposite, which is really interesting. Now, we know that in 2020, the music industry was, the gear industry, the guitar industry was like banging because of COVID, right? So everybody was staying home and they were coming up with some sort of, hobby or whatever, right? So somebody had to stay busy. I was at that point, I think I was into doing some RC car stuff, and it was really hard to find parts for RC cars, and it was hard to find guitar parts. Like, stuff was on back order. It even took a while to make pickups because, parts were on back order. It was nuts. It was nuts busy. It was a record year. And so people thought, well, that's gonna crash afterwards because people are just gonna go back to normal life, and they're gonna, they're just gonna forget about it. And, of course, Fender made a big mistake and had to lay off a bunch of people because they had too much Squire inventory. And so everybody thought, well, there it is. That it's the crash. Fender has way too many guitars, and everybody's clearancing out their guitars, and so therefore it's gonna fall off, and etc. But the funny thing is that in 2020, 2.7 million, and this is obviously a loose number based on averages and dollar amount sales and stuff, but 2.7 million guitars were sold in 2020 in the United States. That's a lot, okay? And since then, the business has grown in the United States $100 million year over year. So 100 more than that in 2021, 100 more than that in 2022, and so on. So it's not slowing down. It's growing, which is bonkers. So why is that? Well, obviously there's a few things, but the bottom line is when people during COVID created habits, it sounds like a lot of them didn't quit. I'm sure there was a large majority of folks who, or not a majority, but there was a large number of folks who, bought guitars and got into hobbies and, any kind of hobby really. And then didn't stick with it, right? That's common. But apparently they didn't. Apparently a lot of people stuck with playing guitar. And then the other thing that kind of happened, I don't know, you probably did this too. The whole buying from home thing, we were forced to do it for a while, right? And so, you have like the curbside pickup stuff hasn't really gone away, right? Like Target and Best Buy and all of your grocery stores, and they all do that, right? And then Instacart and all that stuff. So, yesterday, was it yesterday? No, I guess it would be Sunday. I went to Costco for the first time in like 8 months. Like, we Instacart everything. Oh, look at there. See, there's a notification on my computer right now that says that Instacart is coming. See, we Instacart everything. We don't even go to the grocery store anymore. Because people are finding that, hey, you know what? It saves me a bunch of time. Mileage is down on my car, right? Like I'm not driving my car as much, which means I'm not paying as much in fuel, all those things, right? So yeah, you pay a couple of bucks for a service fee or whatever, but the convenience is there and it saves me a ton of time. I don't have to get pulled away from work, like all those things. It's just great. So the same thing applies to guitar stuff. And people are realizing that the guitar business you can do without leaving your house, which is pretty stinking neato. Even Guitar Center is up in their online business, which is good for them because they had bankruptcy issues. And so for them to be able to recover by going further online makes sense. And of course, the brick and mortar stores are suffering because of this, but it's a reality. And if they want to survive, they've got to go online with stuff. The benefit of that, though, is that a lot of these businesses, Fender, Gibson, all the big ones, plus a lot of the small ones who are getting it, can adapt more quickly. So, for example, they can launch models much more quickly because their marketing lead time is much quicker. So, for example, I'm not 100% sure how it works in the guitar stuff, but like in the dirt bike industry, when I was in the power sports industry, a lot of times what would happen is, from the time an article was written to the time it came out. So if you had a featured product in an article, there was at least 90 to 120 days from the time the article was written to the time it came out, to the time it was published. And so if you had a new product in a new product page, it was probably almost sometimes 6 months from the time that product was ready to be sold to the time it hit the news pages, to the time it hit the magazine rack at the store. You know what I mean? Now it's 24 hours or less. Like, we come out with stuff on Friday and it's on the internet on Saturday. Boom, done. You know what I mean? Like, we come out with a new pickup design or one of our things for our drops, on Saturday, and it's less than 24 hours sometimes. Sometimes I don't come up with those ideas until the very last minute, but it can be done. And so to be able to realize that, oh, this trend is happening, and then for them to be able to move with it, it's fantastic. So I just think that's really cool. I think the guitar industry is growing at such a rate that I'm just glad to be a part of it. And social media has really helped us. A lot of folks want to concentrate on the negative of what happens in the comments. But here's the thing. Here's something that here's a couple things you should remember and some things that I should remember. So as a content creator, and somebody who uses, and I use that term very loosely. I'm not actually a content creator. I use YouTube as a marketing arm for my pickup business. That's what I do. So yes, I create content for that. And everybody in business in 2024 should be a content creator. You should be. And if you're not, you need to be. That's how you're going to survive. But I'm a pickup builder. That's what I really do. And so for me to be able to sustain that, I need to keep doing that on a daily and monthly basis. Super chat from Dastardly Dave. Thank you so much. Ad free is for me. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. I think it's really, really cool that all these things are happening, and I'm stoked to be a part of it. A lot of, so what I was saying though is a lot of the negative comes from negative comments. And what we consider, Rhett Shull just did that video about like negativity in the guitar community. So there's a couple of things. One, as a person who does this stuff, I have to remember that it's a very, very small percentage. Okay. So from my perspective, I want to make sure that I don't get caught up in it, that I make sure that I know that if 5 people comment something negative on a video, that is like 0.015% of the amount of people that actually watch that video. Right. So it's nothing. It's completely insignificant. And for you as a viewer, if you are a person who is getting in the comments thinking that you can control content by what you say, that you have some sort of, some sort of negative thing that you're trying to promote, or that you're just, to me, you are a person when I have a conversation with you. But when it comes to somebody who thinks they have power by their words in the comments, they're a nobody, right? So it kind of goes both ways. It's sort of a both ways thing. Now, the greater voice obviously makes a difference, but here's the thing. Most of the people that complain about stuff don't buy anyway, so it doesn't matter. Like if you see a bunch of people, and this is something you need to remember as a viewer, if you watch a video, okay, let's not even talk about one of mine. Let's talk about somebody way bigger than me, like, I don't know, like Rhett Shull. So let's say you go on his video and he has 100 comments and they're all super negative. Does that mean that video sucked? Does that mean that what he said was wrong? No, it means nothing actually, because it's a very small subset of the community. And it's the people that do that they're in their own little community of people that just hate stuff. So there's no reason to spend any time thinking about it. And the positive people didn't say anything about the video. They just went and bought the thing, whatever we were talking about, strings or cleaning stuff or whatever the video is about, right? I don't comment on something. I just go buy it. I just think it's cool. I just go buy it. And as a fault of myself, I don't get back in the comments and be like, dude, I bought that. Thanks for the recommendation, which we all should do. But I don't do that, right? So the negative voice is really no voice. It's just kind of dumb. Which is kind of dumb to waste the time on it, really. If you are doing that in the comments, it's a waste of your time. So let's talk about some of the breakdown of guitar sales. This is really interesting. So in 2020, the majority was acoustic guitars. But in 2023, it switched from it was about 40% electric guitars in 2020, but now it was 58% in 2023. So the majority of guitars are electric guitars, which is pretty cool. In the online space, which is easier to track and get information on, the top selling acoustic guitars are Taylor, Martin, and Gibson. That makes sense. The top selling electric guitars are Fender, PRS, Epiphone, Gibson, Squier. Makes sense, right? However, there is an entire, you might not realize this, but it would make sense once you hear it, that the leading guitar retailer online is Amazon. So even bigger than Sweetwater. Sweetwater did $1.5 billion last year. They did $1 billion in 2020. They did 1.25, I think, in 2022, and then I think last year they did 1.5 billion, something like that. Maybe a little more, something right in there anyway. But they're growing year over year too. But Amazon's bigger. And Amazon, the majority, all of their top 25 guitar sales products on Amazon are beginners kits. All of them. There's some sort of, like the little Fender Squire pack thing, right? With the little guitar and the strap and the amp and the cable and the, the stuff for what, $150 or $200 or whatever it is now. And so I think that's really cool. A lot of folks would say, because this is another negative that we hear oftentimes in comment sections is, well, everybody's buying cheap guitars and nobody's buying expensive guitars. Like over $1,000. The majority of guitar sales is between $500 and $1,000. Yes. However, the next group is above. Okay. What's interesting is that doesn't mean that nobody's buying expensive guitars and that nobody can afford expensive guitars. But what that does mean, and this is the thing that I am so excited about, is that the next crop of guitar players, the next generation of guitar players is buying guitars now. So if the majority of Amazon, which is the biggest retailer, is a bunch of cheap guitars and beginners kits, that means we have another generation coming. And I don't know what ages they are. We don't know that. But it doesn't matter. When I say generation, I mean a whole nother lifetime now of people coming into the guitar playing space. And that is exciting to me. I think that's really cool. I don't care about the cost of the guitar because somebody who has a lot of money will buy something inexpensive to test the waters. Their next guitar might be a custom shop Les Paul. You don't know. The thing about beginner guitars and inexpensive guitars is too many people in the comments sections have, because they project their own energy onto it, say that because I can't afford a guitar means nobody can afford a guitar. And that's just not the case. So the idea is here, though, is that people are dipping their toes into guitars. And so a video like Rhett made last week about stop being negative in the comments is super important because we don't want to scare off people from playing guitar. I think it's so cool. When I started reading this stuff over and looking at all these numbers and stuff, I was like, this doesn't mean that people can't afford guitars. What this means is people are allocating some of their funds to a new hobby. And the next generation of guitar players in a world of this big of guitar players, because all the people that think that rock is dead and that there's no good guitar on the radio anymore is only this tiny little group. There's 8 other billion people on the earth. So those opinions are insignificant in comparison to the reality, which is what these numbers are telling us, which is so cool. I think it's so neat. And so it makes me excited. Like I went to Guitar Center yesterday because I was out of guitar strings. I just ran out. And so I had to go get some. And I was just walking around in there. There was a bunch of people in there. And the stuff that everybody was looking at was all different, The DJ side was full of people. The guitar side was full of people. The drum side was full of people. The keyboard side had a bunch of people in it. There was nobody in the acoustic room when I was in there. There's always somebody playing bass. And I think it's really neat. I just think it's really, really cool. Just the energy is amazing. Yeah, I dig it a lot. Let's see. Let's go back through some of these and see if there's any comments in here that we want to chat about. The Fish said he was in Guitar Center yesterday and it was slammed with people buying online and picking up in store. This is a GC that was on the verge of being shut down multiple times. Yes, exactly. That's a fantastic business model. I like that. I like the Best Buy deal. I like the fact that I can go buy something. I like to be able to return it. Like it's easier to return something by just taking it back to the store than it is. I don't know. I guess you put it back in the box and you take it back to the store. You put it back in the box and you drop it off at UPS. I don't know what's easier or harder about that. but you can get a quicker exchange, I guess, if you can, get it, return it to the store, which is cool. Let's see. I'm going to go down through some of these a little bit. Amazon may be the biggest, but places like Sweetwater are still getting a piece of that by selling on Amazon. Well, I suppose that's true, right? 50s technology should be dirt cheap today. I disagree. It's no more expensive than it was in the 50s. 50s technology is the same. If you look at inflation numbers, a Les Paul costs the same as what it cost in the 50s. A Strat costs the same as what it within a few bucks anyway. It's not out of line. I mean, is inflation out of line? I mean, that's a whole nother conversation for a podcast that we don't do, right? But if you just look at the numbers, 50s technology costs what it cost then. Everything, it's all relative. So, if a Strat was $5,000 now, but here's the thing, people, this really comes down to understanding how business works. A company is not going to charge more than they need to hit the profit numbers that they need to survive in the long term. Okay. So unless you are, doing something shady, you are going to have a market viable cost, street price on a guitar that then will be marked down 40% to some wholesale, right? So that Guitar Center can buy them from you. And then from that cost, there's going to be probably 400% over the cost of parts and manufacture. And that's going to cover all of your infrastructure, and it's going to cover, you're really going to be looking at what, 5 or 8% net profit at the end of the year. So if you were to say, okay, well, I'm just going to start charging double so that I can make 10 or 16% net profit at the end of the year, your product would no longer be market viable. It just wouldn't sell anymore. So there's a reality to that. So when somebody says guitars are way more expensive than they used to be, they are not actually. They're the same price as they were in 1958, except taking into account inflation. But when you look at all the percentages of cost of goods, cost of manufacture, cost of distribution, and to the end user, the costs are all still the same. The proportions of those costs, they may squish around a little, but they're largely the same. That business model of street price minus 40%, 36 to 40%, depending on the business, that's been that way for many years in a distribution model. So a lot of those things are just basic business practices that a lot of folks who don't understand business don't understand, and they think they're being overcharged. Like, you go to a lot of people will do this. They'll go online, or they'll go on Alibaba, or they'll go on somewhere, and they'll be like, well, this knife, you can get this knife for $202.50 in China. How come this knife costs $350? Made in San Diego. Well, it's not apples to apples. There's a whole bunch of difference going on there. And so when you start to look at how business actually works, it's very, very reasonable, I think. How about the tariffs coming? A lot of people are asking me about that. I am indifferent to the answer to that question, so therefore I do not have a good answer to that question. Here's why. I will do my best to keep my prices competitive and still remain solvent. And I think everybody is going to. And we're all going to have to do what we have to do to make that happen. So because at this point, do we have much choice? Not really. Like, we just have to do what we have to do to make a living. So I could have an opinion on it. I mean, obviously I don't want to pay more for parts, but I don't want to have some sort of, because what will happen is what people will do is they will imply a political leaning to whatever opinion I have on that. And which it doesn't matter, because I have to buy wire. I had to buy wire that was 40% more expensive than it was 6 months ago. This morning, I had to buy a bunch more. You just have to do it. So, and we're just going to have to kind of play it out and see how it goes. The ignorance of business experience and pricing is something people don't understand, and I appreciate how Dylan is transparent about that. Yeah, I mean, it's true. That's the bad part, I guess, of living in the Amazon age, is somehow, I don't know how. Like, I think about this every time I buy a MacBook, right? Like, I will buy a MacBook and I will order it online. It will come from China. I will order it on a Wednesday and I will have it Thursday night. How does that work? I have no idea how that even works, right? And so we live in a time where you can get anything from across the world to your doorstep in a couple of days. And all we have to do, I mean, facial recognition on my phone, I just go bloop like this. I bought a guitar the other day. I was at Waffle House hanging out with some friends. I got a text message. I returned a text message, and that guitar should be showing up today. I didn't even have to think about it. It's so easy. Apple Pay, all that stuff is so easy. So what happens is you have a separation between how the business actually works and the result of the business. So you can hit a button, something shows up at your house. You take for granted everything that makes that happen, right? And so that's kind of the downside of that. I'm doing my best to not shop at Amazon this year. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people feel a lot of different ways about where they shop, and I think that everybody has a right to do that. I think that's a good, I think that's a good thing. Buy where you want to buy. And I think it's important. But my main kind of thing about this entire thing we're talking about today is I'm just super positive and super stoked about where this is going. And I think small builders are going to continue to grow. I think there's going to be more of them. It's going to be just like the music industry, in my opinion. I think there's going to be more. You're going to hear about a lot more people buying stuff that you've never heard of, right? We've already heard that. Think of like Lucky Dog guitars, even Texas Toast. They're growing like crazy. We just did that interview with Casadosa. Now he had a little cheat code because he used to work at the Fender Custom Shop. But that stuff is cool. So even the smaller builders are going to be doing well. And the other thing I think about too, and I've talked about this a lot, and people with mullets don't like me to talk about this, but because they feel called out by it. But the IROC Z generation does not understand that the newer money is more money. Okay, so just because I grew up in a trailer, I made sure that my kids didn't. So they don't know the difference. If a guitar costs $2,000, it costs $2,000. They're just going to pay it, right? They're not going to whine about how much it was when they were a kid. They're just going to pay it. And so, as this new generation of guitar players comes in, I hope I really hope that whole thing will kind of, I don't want to say die out, but kind of literally die out. Like I kind of hope it does. Both of our kids are adults and they don't know a time without a touchscreen, right? So there's been iPads since our kids were little kids. And so that generation of, snobbery around stuff that doesn't really matter is kind of gone. It's going away. And so then the next generation of players that comes in isn't going to care about how much something costs. If they think it's cool, they're going to buy it. And they're also not going to care how the sound comes out, right? Whether it's a speaker, whether it's headphones, whether it's a microchip or a vacuum tube, for the most part, they're not going to care how the sound comes out. It's just going to come out and they're going to be stoked. I really think. I don't know. I'd still like an iRock. Dude, I know you, Mike. Me and you can't afford one. Have you looked? It's nuts. I was on Facebook Marketplace the other day and I was just scrolling, because if I say Facebook Marketplace muscle car, see, now you will all be seeing this for the next week, right? How that works. I scrolled across and it was a Fox Body Mustang 4-cylinder convertible for like 10 grand. And I'm like, that's a pile of garbage. That's like a glorified Ford Escort. And yeah, stuff's expensive. What we think of as just a normal car when we were growing up it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Buy them a typewriter. Why? That makes no sense. That being said, we all write with fountain pens around here. You got to kind of keep it real, but I have about 5 guitars in the last week. Hey man, I dig it. Yeah, man, this is cool. I like looking at all this stuff because I just think it's a really important it's a really important thing to think about, I mean, and just to be looking at where things are going and also to be positive about it. I think too much time is spent looking at and associating the internet and online guitar community and what you personally see around your personal guitar community and algorithm that has shaped around what you enjoy as being super closed off. And then all of a sudden you think that's how the whole world thinks. Because that's kind of how that's kind of how social media works. So, to just step back and think, hey, this is pretty cool. This is a lot bigger than me. And it's a lot better. It's going a lot better than I might have thought, and I dig that. I dig that a lot. In other news, I'm going to lose this fingernail. I was pressing bobbins yesterday, and in 11 years, I have never smashed my finger or even come close to smashing my finger of a 2-ton arbor press. Something slipped off and oh my God, it hurts so bad. It still hurts. Let's see. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty neat conversation to have. That's all I really had for today. I just wanted to chat about that a little bit. I think it's a good, if anybody has any guitar questions, we can entertain those for a couple of minutes. I'm really hoping FedEx comes with my guitar today. They said it's coming, but I don't know. If you're on Patreon, you know what I got. Don't say anything about it over here. Let's see here. Oh, you got yours closing the door on Thanksgiving Day. Oh my God. That's funny. Let's see here really quick. Let me see if I can figure out if this dang thing is coming. That'd be awesome. Because if it does, we're going to do a live unboxing because that's normally what I do. It says today, but it doesn't say out for delivery. So my guess is it's probably not coming until tomorrow, which is okay. I'll have more time. Easiest way to shape curved humbucker rings to the body. So what I would do is take a bunch of blue tape and cover up your body, the guitar body, with blue tape. And then on top of the blue tape, take some 220 adhesive sandpaper and put the adhesive sandpaper over the blue tape because you don't want to stick the sandpaper to the body. So you put it over the blue tape, right? So you keep your guitar safe. But then your sandpaper now is shaped to the top of your guitar, and then you can take your pickup rings and you can slide them back and forth on the sandpaper, knowing that the angle is going to be a little different where the pickup actually is versus where you're sanding on it, because you might have to do it like right next to it. But that'll get you close, and that'll more or less contour it to where you want to be. Which is more versatile, an Enduro or a DAF? A DAF for sure. Yeah. What do you think of the new Heritage Ascent H137? I don't have an opinion on it. It's probably cool. I have not experienced it myself. I don't know. My take on Heritage is this. I would probably buy a Heritage if I had nothing else better to buy, so that I could have a Heritage just because of what it is. They're really good. Like, they're really good. They're not better than a Gibson. They're just, people make that comparison all the time because whatever, it's just as good as because it was made in a, whatever. It's not a Gibson, okay? It's a fake Gibson. But because of what it is and where it's made, it's really cool. So I would definitely own one just because it's cool. Therefore, a cheaper version of said guitar is not worth you owning to me, because I don't want a Heritage just to own a Heritage and then to have a cheaper version of that same guitar. That makes no sense to me. When I heard they were doing that, it immediately made no sense to me, because I was like, wait a minute. You're already having to sell a guitar that's sort of like the real thing. But now you're going to make a guitar that's sort of like the real thing, but it's not the real thing, but it's cheaper than that one. It's kind of like, you know, too many Kevin Bacons. You know what I mean? It's like too many Kevin Bacons away from a Gibson now. So why don't you just buy an Epiphone? If you're going to buy an import version of a thing that looks like a Gibson, just buy an Epiphone. It's closer. It's like less Kevin Bacons. So I don't know. I'm just not... I don't know, unless you're really a Heritage person, I guess. And if you just want to explore it, it makes sense. But you're not getting a better guitar, and you're not getting anything more authentic. You know what I mean? It's more Kevin Bacons. It's not less. Let's see. Not a lot of room. It's an HHH. Okay, so what you might have to do is put tape on both sides of the route and literally do it right where it sits. Take the pickups out and then do it right where it sits. I'd like your opinion. What do you think of replacing the OEM Broadtron pickups in a Gretsch semi-hollow body with humbucker-sized P90s for better gritty slide tone? I would do that. I do not like Broadtrons, but that's my opinion. I'm just not a fan of them. They're not bad pickups or anything. Kinda. I just am not a fan of them. So I would do that. That would be cool. Oh, the Heritage Ascents are not, they're bolt-on necks? I did not know that. I wouldn't buy them. Screw that. Why would you buy a thing that's not even the thing? That's dumb. It's like buying basically what you're buying is a Harley Benton that's not a Harley Benton. Oh, yep, I did say that. Or buy a Gibson Les Paul Studio. Yeah, exactly. Does anyone know which guitar is shown in the thumbnail? Yeah, that is a Texas Toast Icon. Yep. Yeah, I just don't, making a copy of a copy of a copy of a thing. We talked about this last week a little bit, that I don't think, I'm just not of the mindset that if you can have the real thing, why not have it? Right? And if you can't, if you legitimately can't afford it, then why not get the next closest thing to that? If somebody has an Epiphone, okay, I think nothing negative about them at all. Actually, if anybody has any kind of guitar, I don't think it negative about them at all. But what typically happens is all this Harley Benton stuff, this Firefly stuff, all this Chinese stuff, people will, it's like, I have this, and then now I have to explain why I have it. Which you don't have to, because I don't care. You can play whatever you want. But you feel the need to explain it, which means it's not what you really want. Right? Like if you have what you really want, then you don't need to explain it. And if you have an Epiphone, it's cool. They're cool. So I don't know. Let's see. I'm working on a guitar build, a Strat style with a Squier Super 8 bridge and a Hot 5 neck. Would you recommend volume, tone, or volume, tone? I'm a volume tone person, but if you were of those two, I think volume, tone would be better. I agree with your real thing statement. However, some companies make better Strats, for example. Yeah, see, I disagree. So, okay, I disagree. I just do. Everybody says, okay, the Schecter Nick Johnston. It's a Strat though, right? It's not the reason people think that's better is because it comes with a couple of components that Fender doesn't put on a normal guitar. But it's not better. It's still just an import guitar that it's cool. They're great. They are great. And then you could look at Tom Anderson. You could look at Sir, right? But those guys used to work at Fender. So it's not better than a Fender. It isn't. And you know what? It's probably a less recognizable brand name for resale, for all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I disagree. I think the real thing's the real thing. And there will always be some sort of explanation with a thing that's not the real thing. I want to replace the single coil in my Eastwood Warren Ellis signature tenor with a humbucker. It's a 4-string. So thinking a rail, but don't sure whether I should buy a bridge or a neck rail. I don't think in that situation it's really going to matter. I'd love an Epiphone 58 Corona Explorer. Dude, I had one. It was great. That was an awesome guitar. It was an awesome guitar. And the other thing too is there is something about, you know, I'd love to do a video about this. The intangibles of all of this. Too many people, these are not cameras. Okay, a guitar is not a camera. If it, like in photography and videography, you'll hear people talk about pixel peeping, right? Like the only thing they care about is how many megapixels it has, and then when you zoom it in, how blurry it is. Well, that's not all of it, right? The technical part, cameras are like technical, right? This light that I have here is technical. It's like, all right, it gives me the dispersion I need. It gives me the power I need. It gives me the color I need. And so therefore I buy it, right? That's it. But it's not emotional at all. And so when you reduce everything to technical, you miss out on a majority of why all of this stuff is cool. When you, if you allow yourself to be emotional about your hobby, which I think you should, and if you're not, you really need to start. I mean, do whatever you want. It's a free country-ish, but do whatever you want. But I think that this is my opinion. I think that you should allow yourself to be emotional about your hobby. And if you do that, when you open up a Gibson case and you smell the smell and you feel the finish and you understand the craftsmanship and you look at how it's made and all that stuff, there's a thing to that. And it has nothing to do with how many K the pickups are. It has nothing to do with anything except for the feeling when you open the case. And I have that feeling. Every time I pick that Gibson up right there, I have that feeling. I love it. Every time I pick up one of my guitars that I built, I have that feeling. I love it. I bought the Epiphone DG335. I didn't have that feeling, so I sold it. I like the guitar. It's great. It was the best Epiphone ever made. I'll still say that. Just didn't give me that feeling, so I sold it. Same thing with the PRS Silver Sky SE. I had two of them. Just didn't give me that feeling. Now my real one, my American one, every time. I was playing it last night. I was like, this guitar is so cool. I love this thing. But the other one just feels cheaper, it's not the same. It doesn't feel right. So I don't have that feeling. Yeah, man. My affordable Squires and Epi have taught me which Fenders and Gibsons I wish to buy, and once I do not plan to take them out of the house. Yeah, there is definitely a case for that, right? Yeah, I've got acoustics that I don't take out of the house. My D28 doesn't really go anywhere. I've got a Strat that I've had for many years that doesn't go anywhere. But I'm also not afraid to take stuff out and play it. That's why I bought it. I am a very firm believer in I want to enjoy the stuff, right? Like I want to actually enjoy it. I don't own really anything that's super collector-y to just collect, and you can't touch this, and if you take it out of the box, it's going to be worth less, and I don't have any of that. I have one pistol that every time I take it to the range, people are like, I can't believe you take this thing out here. And I'm like, it's what it's for. It's cool. Here, you want it? You want to try it? Like, I don't care. I just want to try stuff. I want to use stuff, and I want to enjoy it. On the Schecter Nick Johnston argument, would you say that a custom Fender mod shop guitar would be a better choice to get all the specs one may like or something from some other builder? I don't know. I am not, is this one better than that one? Here's the deal. If you're a strat person and you like super strats, you're going to end up with both. That's what's going to happen. Why make the choice? So this is the other thing. And I know that budget comes into this, but we have our whole lives. Okay. So, you have time. So most of us, so if you, buy the Nick Johnston and you don't like it, or you think that there might be a Fender out there that you haven't tried yet that there's guitars that I don't own yet because I haven't gotten to try the other thing. So instead of me getting on the internet and being like, hey everybody, is this guitar better than this one? Or is this one just as good as this one? I'm just going to wait until I have the opportunity. If it's something that's really important to me, like, to try, then I'm not going to buy it until I know that I want it. And if I really want it, then I'm going to get it. The guitar that I've got coming is something that I've wanted for many years. And so I'm excited about it. And if it's a bad example, it's just going to go back in the box and I'll just get another one. Right. So I don't care about that. Is it good thing? And I don't care. Is this a better option than that? The thing is, the Nick Johnston comes in color combinations and stuff that only the Nick Johnston Strat comes in. So I think you should get one. And then if it scratches the itch, then you're good. And if you decide that there's another guitar out there that is a little different, that you want that one too, then get that one too. And if you can't, then at that point decide, is this worth getting rid of? Have I connected with it already? Like, you know what I mean? Like, go back to the intangibles. You don't know until you have one. So is the Nick Johnston going to be a better, it's probably going to not have as good a resale value as a Fender, but I don't care about resale value because of what I just said. If I want it, I want it. I'm not going to sell it. And some stuff I've bought knowing that I took a risk. On it. But typically I don't get rid of stuff. I'm not a flipper, Let's see. Yeah. You guys are all kind of on the same page here. I dig it. Yeah, I can't imagine selling. I mean, I'll sell stuff that I have a little different thing going here, right? Like some of the stuff I buy knowing I'm going to sell it because I buy it for the channel or whatever. But there is a section of my guitars that is, I bought this for me no matter what the channel does, and I'm going to have it for the rest of my life. Which the guitar that's coming is one of those. So, yeah. Cool. Well, you guys, this has been super fun. Thanks for hanging out. And I guess we will probably see you. I'm sure we'll see you tomorrow because we will do a live unboxing of this guitar that comes in. And if it comes in tonight, we'll probably do a live unboxing of it tonight. I'm not sure. But whenever it comes in, we'll do we'll do a live unboxing. I already made the thumbnail, so we'll be able to pop it up whenever we're ready. And we'll get going. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you in the next video.